Assalamu alaikum, my sister, my brother. Many people chase happiness as though it is something that lies in the hands of others. They think, if only I had more friends, I'd be happy. Or if only someone loved me the way I want, I'd finally feel whole. But in reality, happiness is not a gift someone can give you. It is a state that begins deep within your own heart. The moment we make our happiness dependent on the presence, approval, or affection of other people, we hand over control of our emotions to something unstable and temporary. People come and go. They change. They disappoint. They forget. If your happiness is attached to someone, then your sadness is also waiting just around the corner, ready to strike the moment they leave or let you down. When we reflect over the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them all, we find something profound. They were often alone, misunderstood, rejected by their own people, yet they had a contentment that could not be stolen. Why? Because their source of happiness was not society, not popularity, not companionship, but their relationship with the Almighty. That is the foundation that never cracks. When your joy is rooted in your connection with your Creator, then no matter who walks away from you, you still remain whole. When your heart is filled with remembrance, when your soul tastes the sweetness of relying on the Almighty, you begin to experience a tranquility that the whole world can't offer you. The problem is we keep feeding the body while starving the soul. We keep filling our lives with noise, with company, with distractions, but deep inside, there is a quiet voice longing to be heard. It is your soul calling you back to what matters. The smile on your face that comes from a sincere prayer, the peace that descends after tears of repentance, the contentment of knowing that your life is in the best hands, these are the things no one can take away from you. Even if the world turns its back, your soul will stand tall because it has found its anchor. And yes, companionship is a blessing. Having good people around you is a mercy, but it is not the source of happiness. It is only a means. Don't confuse the vehicle for the destination. The moment your happiness needs someone else to function, that is the moment you have become emotionally vulnerable to things beyond your control. You're putting your peace in someone else's pocket. And when they walk away with your peace too. Why give that power to anyone? Learn to sit in your own company and enjoy it. Learn to speak to your heart and ask it what it needs. Learn to enjoy a moment of stillness and breathe in gratitude. That's when you realize that your value was never determined by who calls you, who texts you, who checks on you. It was always determined by the one who created you. He knows your worth even when the world doesn't. He knows your struggles even when no one else sees them. He rewards you in secret when your battles are silent. Happiness is found when you clean the heart of resentment, when you remove jealousy, when you forgive others not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. These are all internal actions. They don't require anyone else to be present. They don't need an audience. They are done quietly, between you and the one who made you. That's why true happiness never depends on who is around you. It depends on what is within you. There are people who live in palaces yet feel empty. And there are people living in simple homes with broken walls but hearts that are rich. What is the difference? It's not the material. It's not the number of people around them. It's the condition of their soul. You could have thousands of followers and feel hollow. Or you could walk alone down a street with your heart connected to the most merciful and feel like the most blessed person alive. This is the secret we forget in a world obsessed with likes, attention, and validation. And sometimes the Almighty strips away people from your life, not as a punishment, but as a protection. He removes them so that you may finally see your own strength, so that you may return to Him and realize that what you were searching for in people, He had all along. You thought a person would complete you, but it is your relationship with Him that truly makes you whole. You thought someone's words would make you feel loved, but his words in the Quran remind you that you were always loved beyond measure. So, take a deep breath. Sit with yourself. Talk to your Creator. Let go of the illusion that someone else will come and fix your heart. The key to your happiness has been with you the whole time. It's in your hands. More accurately, it's in your heart. And when that heart turns sincerely to its Maker, happiness becomes your companion. Not because of who is around you, but because of who you've placed your trust in. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. The world often confuses the two. They tell you that if you are alone, something must be wrong with you. That if you are not constantly surrounded by people, constantly engaged in conversations, constantly busy with others, then you must be sad or incomplete. But this mindset is flawed. The Almighty in His divine wisdom sometimes places you in solitude, not to punish you, not to abandon you, but to give you the gift of His closeness. When the noise of the world quiets down and you are left in the company of your own thoughts, that is often when the deepest truths begin to rise within you. Being alone is an opportunity. It is a chance to reflect. It is a moment to realign yourself with your purpose. It is a space where your heart speaks and you finally listen, because in the business of life your soul gets drowned. Your connection with your Creator becomes faint. But in solitude, that connection grows strong again. You begin to notice the small blessings. You begin to value silence. You begin to see things with clarity. And most importantly, you begin to realize that the company of your Lord is more fulfilling than any companionship on earth. The Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, was called by the Almighty to the mountain alone. It was in that seclusion that revelation came. The Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him, was alone in the belly of the whale, and it was there that he turned with full sincerity to his Lord. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to retreat to the cave of Hira in solitude before the Quran was revealed. There is a powerful message in all of this, that sometimes your greatest spiritual breakthroughs come not when you are with others, but when you are alone, sincerely turning to the Almighty. People may abandon you, friends may forget you, family may misunderstand you, but that does not mean you are lonely. It only means that the Almighty wants you to experience something deeper. He wants you to lean on Him. He wants you to find peace that is not shaken by the opinions or presence of others. Because once your heart tastes the contentment that comes from solitude with Him, the absence of people will no longer scare you. You will no longer fear the quiet nights. You will no longer dread being on your own. Instead, you will cherish those moments. You will protect them. You will long for them, because they are moments when your soul is free from distractions and fully present with its Creator. Loneliness is not about being without people. It is about being disconnected from meaning, from purpose, from your Lord. You can be in a crowd of 1,000 and still feel lonely. You can be constantly surrounded by conversations, laughter, and attention, and still feel empty. But when your heart is connected to the Almighty, even if no one calls you, even if no one checks on you, even if you sit in a room alone for days, your soul feels full. It feels seen, it feels loved, because it knows that the most loving, the most merciful is near. The world teaches you that value comes from visibility, that the more people who notice you, the more valuable you are. But the truth is, your value lies in the unseen, in those quiet acts of worship, in those sincere tears in the middle of the night, in those whispers of dua that no one else hears but the one who matters most. That is where your strength is built. That is where your faith is deepened. That is where your happiness is restored. The Almighty may keep you away from people in a season of your life to protect you from harm. He may isolate you so that He can speak to your heart without distractions. He may take away friendships that were pulling you away from Him. He may remove relationships that were built on false foundations. Not because He wants to make you suffer, but because He wants to give you something better. And often the first gift He gives is solitude, a silence that cleanses, a distance that heals, a loneliness that transforms into light. You see, when you are alone, you begin to see what you were blind to before. You begin to see your own strengths. You begin to appreciate your own journey. You begin to develop a resilience that doesn't depend on anyone else. You stop waiting for someone to complete you, and you start recognizing that you are already complete with the mercy of your Lord, that you are already loved, already guided, already seen, even if the world forgets your name. Solitude also teaches you detachment, not from love but from dependency. It teaches you that you can love others and still not need them to survive. That you can care for people but not base your happiness on their actions. That you can walk with people but not fear walking alone when the path requires it. Because you know that you are never truly alone. The one who created you, who knows every thought you carry, every tear you shed, every fear in your chest. He is closer to you than your jugular vein. He is with you in every step, in every breath, in every heartbeat. Being alone is not a punishment. It is a divine pause, a sacred interval, a space to rediscover your worth, a moment to purify your intentions, a chance to realign your life. And when you embrace it with gratitude and trust, it becomes a treasure, a sanctuary, a moment of deep worship, a chapter of growth, a blessing in disguise. In a world that is constantly talking, constantly moving, constantly shouting for attention, silence has become rare. Solitude has become something people avoid. We are surrounded by noise, from our devices to our conversations, from the pressure of society to the constant demands of life. Yet, there is a hidden mercy in the moments when we are alone and everything is quiet. It is in these moments of silence and solitude that the heart begins to whisper what it truly needs. And more importantly, it is in these moments that your soul finally has the chance to hear the voice it's been missing, the connection with its Creator. The Almighty knows when you need a break from the chaos of the world. He knows when your heart is weary. He knows when the pressure around you is becoming too heavy. And often, His way of drawing you back is by isolating you, quieting everything around you, so that you are no longer distracted, so that you may return, so that you may remember, so that you may speak to Him without interruption. Because when your soul reconnects with its source, that is when healing begins. That is when peace returns. That is when your purpose becomes clear again. Think about the beauty of the night, when the world sleeps and everything is still. That is not just a moment of rest. It is a divine window of opportunity. A time when the gates of mercy are open, when prayers are heard more closely, when the whispers of your heart are met with the attention of the most merciful. But most people miss it. They are too tired, too busy, too distracted. Yet those who wake in that silence, those who choose solitude in that hour, they find something this world can never offer. The sweetness of standing before the Lord, alone, speaking, crying, asking, and finding peace. Solitude is not just physical, it is also emotional and spiritual. It is about detaching your heart from everything that is pulling it in 1,000 directions. It is about taking time to reflect, to evaluate, to cleanse the heart from everything that has attached itself to it besides the Almighty. Because throughout your day, your heart picks up things. It picks up envy, it picks up comparison, it picks up fear, anxiety, sadness, resentment. And if you don't take time to retreat into solitude, those things pile up, they cloud your soul, they block the light. But when you sit alone and you turn to your Creator, when you speak to Him with honesty, that is when those burdens begin to lift. That is when your heart begins to feel light again. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would often seek solitude even before revelation came. He would climb the mountain, enter the cave, and sit in silence, not because he didn't love his people, not because he didn't enjoy company, but because the soul needs silence to prepare for greatness. The soul needs solitude to strengthen its bond with its Creator. And we, too, need those moments, not just occasionally, but regularly. We need to disconnect from the world to reconnect with what truly matters. In silence, the heart speaks. In solitude, the soul listens. You begin to see your mistakes clearly, but instead of feeling hopeless, you feel motivated to change. You begin to remember the blessings you had forgotten, and that remembrance brings gratitude. You begin to cry, not out of pain alone, but out of relief, because you realize you are not alone in this journey. The one who created you has never left you. He has just been waiting for you to come back to Him. There is a reason why the most powerful du'as are often made in solitude, because there are no pretenses, there is no audience. It is just you and your Lord. You don't need fancy words. You don't need to explain yourself. He already knows. He already sees. He already understands. And He loves it when you come to Him broken. When you come to Him confused. When you come to Him with nothing but the desire to be near Him. Because in those moments, you are being real. You are being sincere. And sincerity is what draws the mercy of the most generous. Solitude also teaches you how to rely on the Almighty. When there is no one around to comfort you, to guide you, to talk to you. That is when you learn to turn to Him. That is when you learn that He is enough. That is when you discover that you were never truly in control. And that real strength is not in pretending to be okay, but in placing your weaknesses before Him and asking Him to carry you through. If you want to grow spiritually, you must make time for silence. If you want to purify your heart, you must step away from the noise. If you want to reconnect with your Creator, you must learn to be alone with Him. These are not luxuries. These are necessities for the soul. And the amazing thing is, the more you taste the sweetness of that connection, the less you will crave the approval and attention of the world. You will no longer feel desperate to be seen by people, because you know that you are seen by the one who matters most. You will no longer feel anxious about being misunderstood, because you know that your intentions are known by the one who knows all. You will no longer panic in moments of silence, because you will begin to see them as opportunities, as gifts, as sacred pauses where your soul can breathe again. There is a deep exhaustion that settles into the heart when you spend your life trying to please people. You wake up worrying about what they will think. You act in ways just to be accepted. You say things you don't mean just to fit in. And slowly, day by day, you lose yourself. You begin to forget who you really are, what you really believe, what your soul truly needs. All because you are constantly bending yourself to meet the expectations of others. But the reality is, no matter how much you do, no matter how hard you try, the world will always find something to criticize. It will always move the goalpost. It will never be fully satisfied, because it was never created to be your judge. It was never meant to be your source of validation. The only one who knows your heart, your effort, your intentions is your Creator. And until you stop living for people and start living for Him, you will never truly find peace. When you try to please the world, you will feel like you are running a race with no finish line. Today they want you to act a certain way. Tomorrow they want you to change. If you succeed, they say it's not enough. If you fall, they are the first to laugh. If you speak the truth, they say you're too blunt. If you stay silent, they accuse you of being cold. How can the heart ever rest when it is chained to such shifting standards? How can your soul breathe when every moment of your life is controlled by the opinions of others? The answer is, it can't. And this is why so many people feel lost even when they appear successful. So many people feel empty even when they are surrounded by admiration, because their hearts are not anchored in truth. They are floating from one person's expectation to the next, never settling, never grounded. But when you step away from that chase, when you realize that the only one whose pleasure truly matters is the Almighty, something changes inside of you. You stop performing for the crowd and you start being real. You stop fearing rejection from people and you start fearing disobedience to your Lord. You stop worrying about how you look to others and you start focusing on how you appear in front of the one who sees your soul. And that is where you find yourself. That is where you meet your real heart. That is where the journey of authenticity begins. The people who have left the biggest impact on the world did not live to please others. They lived to please their Creator. The prophets, the righteous, the sincere, they were not focused on popularity. They were focused on truth. They faced criticism, mockery, even exile. But they remained firm because their hearts were not attached to the applause of the people. They were attached to the approval of the one who sent them. And this is the example we must follow, because the moment you let go of the burden of people pleasing, your heart feels light. You no longer wake up trying to impress. You wake up trying to do good. You no longer measure your worth by who praises you. You measure it by how close you are to your Lord. There is a quiet confidence that comes when your life is built around sincerity. You can walk into a room where no one knows you and still feel valued. You can speak your truth even if it's not popular and still feel strong. You can be different and not feel the need to apologize, because you know who you are. You know what you stand for. And most importantly, you know who you are living for. That clarity protects you from the storms of life. It protects you from the manipulation of people. It protects you from the emptiness that comes from living a life of pretense. One of the most powerful moments in your life is when you realize that it's okay if not everyone likes you. It's okay if not everyone agrees with you. It's okay if you don't fit into every circle, because you were not created to be a people pleaser. You were created to be a servant of the most merciful. And when you serve Him sincerely, you will find that the right people will come into your life. The ones who love you for your truth, the ones who appreciate you for your values, the ones who lift you, not for who you pretend to be, but for who you truly are. So take a deep breath and give yourself permission to be real. Stop editing yourself to meet the expectations of others. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into places you were never meant to be. Stop living in fear of being misunderstood. Your job is not to be perfect in their eyes. Your job is to be honest in front of your Lord. And once you embrace that, you will begin to feel a peace that no praise can give and no criticism can take away. Remember, the people who criticize you today will forget about you tomorrow. But the actions you do sincerely for your Creator, those are written forever. The people who mock your sincerity will fade, but your reward remains. The people who misunderstand your path don't need to understand it, because it was never their path to walk. It was yours. And you are walking it with the guidance of the One who knows every step you take, every sacrifice you make, every intention you carry. You find yourself not in the mirror of public opinion, but in the reflection of sincere worship. You find yourself not in the praise of others, but in the quiet moments of dua when your heart is open before your Lord. You find yourself not when you follow the crowd, but when you follow the truth, even if you walk alone. And once you find yourself there, in that place of sincerity, in that space of submission, in that zone of peace, you will never want to go back to pretending, performing, or pleasing anyone other than the One who created you. One of the greatest thieves of peace is comparison. It begins quietly. You see someone else's smile, their success, their family, their achievements, and something inside you starts to shift. You begin to question your own journey. You begin to wonder why you don't have what they have. You begin to look at your life with a lens of deficiency rather than gratitude. And slowly, the contentment you once had disappears. Not because your blessings have changed, but because your focus has shifted. Instead of counting what you have, you're busy counting what others possess. Instead of being grateful for your path, you're wishing you were on theirs. But the truth is, no matter how beautiful someone else's life appears, you don't see the whole story. You don't know what they cry about at night. You don't know what they've had to endure. You don't know what they're struggling with behind the scenes. Comparison blinds you from reality and blinds you from your own blessings. The Almighty created you with a unique journey. Your path was designed specifically for your soul. Your challenges, your strengths, your blessings, your lessons, they are not random. They are tailored to bring out the best in you. So when you look at someone else's journey and wish you had it, you're actually wishing for a life that wasn't made for you. And in doing so, you miss the beauty of your own path. You miss the growth that is waiting in your own struggles. You miss the reward that lies in your own patience. You miss the light that comes from embracing your own story. Inner peace comes when you accept where you are, when you trust the timing of your life, when you stop measuring your worth against someone else's chapter. You may look at someone and see that they're married, while you are still waiting. You may see that they're wealthy, while you are just trying to survive. You may see that they have children, while you are still praying for one. And you may think they are happier than you. But happiness does not come from what you have. It comes from the state of your heart. You can have the world and still feel empty. You can have very little and feel like the richest person alive. The secret is not in possessions. It is not in status. It is not in what others see. It is in the quiet contentment that grows in the heart of a person who trusts their Lord completely. The moment you start comparing, you lose sight of your blessings. You become blind to what the Almighty has already given you. You no longer appreciate the roof over your head, the food on your table, the health you enjoy, the peace in your home, because you're too busy looking at someone else's highlight reel. But when you pause and reflect, when you look inward and upward instead of outward, you begin to see just how much you have. You begin to realize that your life is filled with gifts that someone else is praying for. You begin to value the things that truly matter: faith, family, health, time, and peace of mind. Social media has made comparison even more dangerous. Every scroll shows you filtered glimpses of other people's lives. You see smiles, vacations, celebrations, achievements, and your heart starts to ache. But what you're seeing is not the full picture. You're seeing what they choose to show. You're seeing the polished moments, not the pain behind them. And if you judge your entire life based on those glimpses, you will always feel behind. You will always feel inadequate. That is why you must protect your heart from constant exposure to this illusion. Limit what you feed your soul. Spend more time with your own thoughts, your own goals, your own relationship with your Lord. Remember that your journey is not a race. There is no medal for reaching a milestone before someone else. The Almighty is not comparing you to anyone. He is watching your sincerity, your effort, your patience, your gratitude. He knows what you've been through. He knows how hard you've tried. He knows the quiet tears you've shed, The silent prayers you've made, the moments you stayed strong, when you felt like breaking, that is what matters. That is what counts in His eyes. So don't compare your path to someone else's. Compare your today to your yesterday. Are you closer to your Lord? Are you growing in patience? Are you becoming more compassionate, more grateful, more honest? That is true progress. And even when it feels like others are ahead, remind yourself that every soul is tested differently. What looks like a blessing for someone else may be a test in disguise, and what looks like a hardship for you may be your greatest elevation. The storms you face are not signs of failure. They are signs that your Lord believes in your strength, that He is purifying you, molding you, preparing you for something better. So hold on to your trust. Let your heart rest in the knowledge that what is meant for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never meant to be yours. The heart finds peace not when life is perfect, but when it accepts that perfection is not the goal. Sincerity is. The heart finds rest not when it has what others have, but when it learns to value what it already holds. The heart finds clarity not by chasing what is out there, but by turning inward and realizing that the treasure it seeks is within, in faith, in trust, in remembrance. So the next time you feel tempted to compare, remind yourself your worth is not measured by someone else's success. Your value is not decreased by someone else's blessings. Your happiness is not postponed until you have what they have. It is available right now. In gratitude, in patience, in faith, and in trusting the one who is writing your story with wisdom and mercy, there is a secret key that many overlook in their search for happiness. It is simple, it is quiet, and it lives in the heart of those who choose to see light even in the darkest times. That key is gratitude. And when gratitude is practiced in solitude, when there is no audience to impress and no one around to validate it, that is when it becomes most powerful. It is easy to say Alhamdulillah when surrounded by blessings, laughter, and joy. But when you are alone, when things are not going your way, when life feels heavy, and you still manage to whisper Alhamdulillah, with sincerity, something changes inside of you. That is when you unlock the treasure chest of contentment. Solitude is not a punishment. It is an invitation from your Creator to step back, to look within, and to reconnect with what truly matters. And gratitude is the light that illuminates that space. When you sit alone, away from the distractions, and begin to reflect on the blessings you often take for granted, your breathing, your ability to think, your access to food, your moments of safety, the peace you feel in your heart, your perspective starts to shift. The things you used to complain about start to feel smaller. The things you used to overlook start to shine with new meaning. Gratitude reframes your entire life. It takes what you have and multiplies its value. It takes what you lack and fills the space with hope. The Almighty says, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you." This is not just about wealth or material increase. It is about barakah. It is about the increase of peace in your heart, the increase of clarity in your mind, the increase of calmness in your soul. That comes when you are grateful, not just in public but in private. When you thank your Lord not just with your tongue, but with your heart. When you wake up in the quiet of dawn, and you raise your hands in gratitude, even if the day ahead looks uncertain. That is the gratitude that transforms your reality. Gratitude in solitude teaches you to stop chasing what others have. It teaches you to appreciate your unique journey. It teaches you that even if the world forgets your name, the most merciful remembers your thanks. Even if no one claps for your achievements, the angels record every sigh of gratitude that leaves your lips. Even if your blessings are not loud or glamorous, they are still blessings. And the more you recognize them, the more peace you will feel, because your focus is no longer on what is missing, it is on what is present and who has given it to you. There are moments in life when you will be left alone. People may not understand your pain. Friends may not reach out. Family may be busy. In those moments, you can either fall into sadness and self-pity, or you can choose to look at what still remains. You still have breath. You still have time. You still have a Lord who listens, who knows, who understands, who never abandons you. If you can be grateful for that, even in solitude, then you have discovered a strength that no hardship can crush. Look at the lives of the righteous. They would spend hours in the night, alone, in prayer, in tears, in thankfulness. Not because everything was perfect, but because they had learned the secret of solitude into a sanctuary of gratitude. They knew that the soul is nourished not by the presence of others, but by the remembrance of its Creator. And the most nourishing remembrance is gratitude, when the heart bows before its Lord in sincere appreciation, even when it is hurting. When you are alone, you begin to hear your thoughts more clearly. You begin to notice your inner dialogue. If you train your mind to default to complaint, then every silence will echo with dissatisfaction. But if you train your mind to default to gratitude, then even silence becomes a source of serenity. Gratitude changes your focus. You stop asking, "Why don't I have more?" and start saying, "How blessed I am to have this." And from that shift, peace begins to grow. Sometimes the Almighty removes people from your life so that you may finally see what He has given you. Sometimes He takes away distractions so that you may finally look up and say, "Thank you." Sometimes He allows discomfort so that your heart learns to appreciate comfort when it returns. Gratitude in solitude is a test, a beautiful one, because it reveals whether your thanks are dependent on circumstances or rooted in faith. And when you pass that test, when you say thank you without needing everything to be perfect, then the gates of mercy open wide. Contentment is not about having everything. It is about seeing everything as a gift. It is about looking at your life and realizing that there is always something to thank your Lord for. It could be the meal you just ate, the roof over your head, the ability to hear, the chance to pray, the simple joy of a peaceful breath. These are miracles, but we treat them as ordinary. Gratitude reminds us that nothing is ordinary. Every heartbeat is a gift. Every moment of safety is a shield. Every answered prayer is a kiss from the heavens. And when you start to live like that, when your day begins and ends with gratitude, when your solitude is filled with remembrance and thanks, when your heart glows not because everything is easy, but because everything is appreciated, then contentment becomes your companion. You stop needing more to feel happy. You start feeling happy with less. You stop envying others because your eyes are fixed on your own blessings. You stop fearing the future because your gratitude builds trust in the one who holds it. There comes a point in life when you realize that people are not always going to be there for you. Not because they are bad, not because they don't care, but because they are human. They get busy. They forget. They have their own struggles. Sometimes they promise and don't follow through. Sometimes they love you but still let you down. If your heart is attached to them, if your stability depends on them, then every absence will feel like a storm. Every silence will feel like abandonment. Every mistake they make will feel like betrayal. This is the reality of relying on the creation. It leaves your heart at the mercy of what is temporary, limited, and imperfect. But when your heart turns to the one who never forgets, never sleeps, never abandons, never breaks a promise, that is when you will never feel alone again. The Almighty has placed in each of us a need to rely. We are not created to be self-sufficient. We get tired, we get anxious, we get weak. And that is by design. Because every weakness is a doorway back to Him. Every moment of pain is a reminder that true strength lies in submission. Every disappointment from people is an invitation to shift your trust to the one who will never disappoint. You see, the more you rely on Him, the lighter your burdens become. Not because the problems vanish, but because you are no longer carrying them alone. There are moments when no one understands what you're going through. You try to explain, but the words don't come out right. You cry, but no one sees. You ask for help, but people are too occupied. It is in those moments that you must remember, your Lord is closer to you than your jugular vein. He knows what you cannot express. He sees what others miss. He hears even the "do you" whisper in your heart. And when you rely on Him, not just with your words, but with your heart, with your actions, with your trust, you begin to feel a companionship that no human presence can replace. When you rely on the Almighty, you walk with confidence even when the road is uncertain. You speak with peace even when the world is loud. You cry, but your tears don't drown you. They cleanse you. Because you know that there is someone holding your hand even when no one else is around. You know that every step you take is being watched by the most loving. You know that your efforts are never wasted. Your pain is never ignored. Your silence is never unheard. That is the power of true reliance. Reliance is not just saying, "I trust you, O Allah." It is living like you mean it. It is letting go of the need to control everything. It is doing your best and then surrendering the results. It is trusting that even when things don't go your way, they are still going the right way. Because the one who is managing your affairs has more knowledge, more wisdom, and more mercy than you can ever comprehend. And when you begin to live like that, when your reliance is deep and sincere, you will find that loneliness disappears even if you are physically alone. You no longer panic when people leave, because you know that the one who remains is the one who matters most. You no longer feel crushed when your plans fail, because you know that his plan is better. You no longer chase after love that hurts you, because your heart is already filled with the love of the one who created it. That is a kind of peace that cannot be explained. It must be lived, and it begins the moment you decide to stop placing your hope in what is fragile and start placing it in what is eternal. Relying on the Almighty also means that you believe His timing is perfect. That just because your due hasn't been answered yet doesn't mean it won't be. That just because things are hard now doesn't mean they'll stay that way. When you rely on Him, you learn to wait with hope. You learn to walk through the storm with faith. You learn to see every delay not as a denial, but as a divine arrangement for something greater. That is how reliance strengthens you. It takes the weight of uncertainty and replaces it with the peace of trust. And yes, there will still be days when you feel weak. There will be nights when the silence feels heavy. But even in those moments, if you have built your heart around reliance on the Almighty, you will feel a nearness that warms you. You will feel a presence that comforts you. You will feel supported in ways no human being could ever provide. Because His help is not limited. His love is not conditional. His mercy is not temporary. It is constant, overflowing, and wrapped around every sincere servant who places their trust in Him. When you wake up with no one to talk to Him. When you face a decision and no one understands, ask Him. When your heart is overwhelmed and your strength is gone, lean on Him. The more you turn to Him, the more you will find Him turning to you. And the beauty is, the more you rely on Him, the more independent you become from everyone else. Not arrogant, not cold, but stable, emotionally strong, spiritually secure, because your foundation is not based on who comes or who goes. It is based on the one who never leaves. So when the world feels distant, when hearts around you feel cold, when the room is silent and your chest feels tight, remind yourself, I am not alone. My Lord is with me. He sees me. He hears me. He will carry me. And that belief, that reliance, that certainty, it will hold your heart together in the darkest of times. It will keep you upright when everything else is crumbling. It will be your anchor when life gets stormy. And it will be your light when all other lights go out. Happiness is not found in the noise of the crowd, nor in the approval of people, nor in the fleeting comforts of this world. True happiness is a journey that begins within. It is found in stillness, in sincerity, in solitude, and in the remembrance of the one who never abandons you. You are not defined by how many people surround you, how often they praise you, or how closely they walk beside you. You are defined by your heart's connection to its Creator. When that connection is strong, you can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely, or you can be completely alone and still feel surrounded by light. To be happy alone is to stop chasing the illusion that someone else will complete you. It is to embrace the truth that the most merciful already knows you, loves you, and is sufficient for you. When you learn to sit in your own company and find peace in it, when you silence the noise of the world to hear your soul, when you stop comparing, stop pleasing, and start trusting, that is when you taste the sweetness of real happiness. A happiness that does not depend on who stays or who leaves. A happiness that remains steady through trials, through silence, through solitude. When you are grateful, even in loneliness, when you trust, even in uncertainty, when you worship, even in silence, then know that your heart is being nurtured in the most powerful way. The Almighty sometimes removes the world from around you, not to break you, but to show you that He alone is enough for you. And when your soul learns to rely on Him, when your heart beats with His remembrance, and your days begin and end with His name, then being alone will no longer feel like emptiness. It will feel like peace. It will feel like purpose. It will feel like home.